Hello, friends, and welcome to the Reclamation Podcast. I'm your host, Megan Colleen Johnson, and I'm here to guide us in raw conversations about thriving in life and work, so that together we can step into personal agency and stop letting life happen to us. We'll cover topics like health, boundaries, communication, finances, and worthiness. That badass business you've been dreaming of, it's not so far off. The desire to wake up feeling fully alive, it's right around the corner. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast today. I'm really excited for our conversation. Today, I'm coming to you from my office, and like I normally do, I have tea in front of me instead of coffee today. I've had a couple cups already, so I'm slowing things down with some tea, and it's kind of a cloudy day for me today, but it's still, I've got some candles lit and kind of just embracing the cloudy moment. So I'm really excited because today I have Erica Carrico with me, and she is an award-winning life purpose and business coach, an adventure lover, mommy of two, and world traveler. Through coaching services and speaking, Erica helps professionals who are frustrated and stuck in the wrong career discover their life purpose, build and up-level their soul-aligned business so they can finally earn a living doing what they absolutely love, what they were put on earth to do. And Erica also just received the Beautiful You Coaching Academy International Coach of the Year Award. So I'm so excited about that as well. So Erica, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited about this conversation.
It's going to be so good.
Yeah.
I love it. So do you mind just taking a minute and just sharing a little bit kind of like where you're recording from, what you have in front of you? I always love to just kind of ground in first and share a little bit of kind of what we're experiencing as we're recording.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So I am coming from Boulder, Colorado, and I'm in my office. I just actually, as you were talking, moved from my desk to the floor, and I love to sometimes just sit here with the sun is shining. So I've got the blinds open and the sun is coming in and just sort of basking in the warmth of the sun right now, which feels really beautiful.
I love that. I love that so much. I'm a little jealous of the sun you have today.
Yeah, we get a lot of it in Colorado. So
that's awesome. I believe you have snow though, and I don't have snow right now. So I'll take the no snow. You have the snow. You get the sunshine. It's a give and take.
Yes, that's true. I do. Yes. Okay, there we go.
So I'm really excited about our topic today. We're just going to be kind of chatting through life purpose, pursuing your big dreams, and pretty much everything that I think all of us at some point come into an encounter with, where we have the opportunity to like lean in and pursue it, or we can kind of pull back and stay small. And I'm really excited to chat through and like hear more of your story with this, especially because you've taken this as well and created your business around life purpose and your big dreams. I just love that. So I would love if you could share a little bit of like, what is your story, kind of what brought you to this point? And I know like you've kind of worked through the corporate scene and like kind of reclaiming different parts of your life to step into coaching. So what exactly did you have to reclaim to step into this work?
Oh my gosh, what did I have to reclaim to step into this work? I think I obviously had to reclaim myself, and I think I was just always that person who basically did everything that I was supposed to do in my life, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners can probably relate to just being the achiever and being the good girl and the smart one and, the nice one and the one who follows all the rules and the one who gets the good grades. And I just kind of felt like the more that I achieved and the more that I followed the path that I should follow, the more successful and the happier I would be in my life. And, I always felt like this real restlessness, from the time that I was younger. And I always felt like I was really different than a lot of people. I came out of college and my friends were getting jobs and careers and they were getting married and having kids. And I just remember being like, oh my God, like what is, that's not the path that I'm meant to take. I do not know what I'm here for, but I know that that's not it right now. And I just remember thinking in that moment of, I am going to go on a really big soul evolution here and it's going to be really hard, but I'm not going to take the easy road. And whenever I'm given the option of taking the easy road or the path that I know I feel I actually want to take, I'm going to take the path that I want. And it was sort of a commitment that I made to myself throughout my 20s, I was really lost and really searching. And by the time that I was 25, I think I had like, I don't know, 10 jobs. I just was really trying to figure out what I was supposed to do. And I knew I wanted to make a difference in the world. Yeah. But I didn't know how or by doing what. And I was just like trying to figure out, do I go back to I get my master's degree? Do I go into counseling and therapy? I really wanted to travel and I had done some traveling before. Do I want to just go travel for like 5 years and have a fun job? And I just really internally battled, like trying to find my path and trying to find my way. And I literally looked everywhere possible that I could around the globe before I finally really figured out the path of my soul. And I think, this can relate to so many people, and, maybe some of your listeners and maybe even you as well, where I felt this like, at 26, I just kind of felt like, okay, I really need to choose something here. A lot of that, like, what should I be doing and how can I be creating success in my life? And, all of my other friends are like passing me by now. It just kind of started hitting me. And I felt like I needed to choose a career. So I did. And I went into corporate recruitment thinking, I don't know what I want to do with my life, but I'm going to help other people, move into jobs that they really want to be in. And at least I'm making a difference in the world. So that was kind of where I started. And I did that for about 5 years in Colorado. And then I ended up moving down to Sydney, Australia, and worked in international recruitment in Sydney. And it was amazing. I was like traveling the world and I had all these international clients and I worked at the top of this like super fancy building on the 50th floor. And we had champagne every Friday night. And, we were entertaining just like world-class clients. And I had this moment where, someone looked at me and she was just like, oh, how good is your life? Like, this is just so amazing. And I remember in that moment thinking, like, what are you talking about? I'm miserable. I had just been so caught up in trying to do the right thing and trying to make things stick in my life. And, I remember thinking like, I can't leave this career. I can't leave this company because what's it going to do to my resume and just, all of the education that I had spent and whatever. But
totally.
I was working, like you said before, 8 to 6. No, actually it was 7:30 to 6:30. So it was crazy. And
gosh.
Yeah, those were actually our hours, 7:30 to 6:30. And
which is not that uncommon, which is really unfortunate.
Totally. Yeah. I have clients, like corporate clients who come to me and they're trying to leave their corporate careers and start their own businesses. And I work with lawyers who are in New York and they're working from 5, 6 in the morning until 10 or 11 at night. It's insane.
Yeah. Wow.
So just feeling really burnt out and didn't really feel like I had time to do anything in my life. And I was depressed. I was waking up in the morning and just trying to do everything that I could to get myself into my job. And I remember just like listening to music and affirmations and trying to meditate on the train. And I would work all day, like just extreme anxiety. And I'd get off work, I'd go to a spin class. I'd stop at the takeaway store on the way home and pick up like some Thai food or something, a bottle of wine. I'd get home, I'd drink half the bottle, I'd eat my Thai food, and I'd go to bed and like repeat the same day the next day. And I felt like I was just on a hamster wheel.
Yeah.
And there came a point when I felt like I really can't do this anymore. And so I actually left and I decided I was going to go travel the world. And it was something that I had always wanted to do. So I went around and spent a year traveling with my now husband. And we went to, I think it was like 50 different countries or just something crazy like that. And on that trip, I realized, after spending a lot of time in third world countries, that I would never be able to go back to the corporate world. I had this longing to find purpose in my life. And I had this longing to find meaning. Why am I here? I know I'm not here just to earn millions of dollars for a company that already has millions. That's not like why I'm here. So even though I didn't know why I was here, I knew that I wasn't going to go back to corporate. And a part of me in that time, I was 29. And I remember thinking like, I really actually wanted to start my own business. And I started feeling like coaching was the way that I wanted to go. But, I had all these fears that I allowed allowed me to talk myself out of it. Like, you're
Yeah.
too young to start a business right now. Like, you can't be a life coach at 29. That's crazy. And, you're moving back to Australia. You want to have a family. You need to get a supportive job and an income, and you need security and all the things. So I totally talked myself out of starting my own business and chose a bit of a safe route. I got my master's degree in nonprofit management, and then spent about 5 years working as the executive director of a not-for-profit. And the funny thing is literally, so I was making a difference in the world, right? But I literally found myself in the same exact space of burnout 5 years later.
Yeah.
Right? Because I was still not following my heart. I was still not doing what I had that call to do. I was cheating myself, and I was basically building somebody else's dream, and I was taking the easy way out. And my body so knew that. Like, my heart knew that. I felt it. I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing, but I knew that I wasn't being true to myself. And I found myself again back to the same, drinking every night, not like a lot, but, 1 or 2 glasses of wine every night, because I just couldn't deal with how I was feeling anymore. My marriage was like about ready to explode. My kids were just really draining me. And I kind of hit a place of rock bottom. And oddly enough, at that same point in time, I was also diagnosed with kidney cancer, which, going back and sort of looking through everything now and seeing, how I was living, so misaligned from my truth, and so misaligned from my soul, and so disconnected from my purpose, that it actually created, and I really believe this, that physical manifestation of toxicity inside my body. My body couldn't physically live. My soul couldn't survive. And my body started turning on itself because how I was holding everything in and not expressing who I was out into the world.
Yeah. Wow. I super resonate with that. Like, I haven't had something as major as cancer, but I know, like, in my own story, it was really interesting because my body just so much fatigue, and I had a lot of cystic acne when I just made the decision to step out of a situation that was unhealthy for me. But it's so interesting how our bodies, they're like, hey, this is not how you're supposed to live. This is not right. No. And they try to get our attention. And sometimes those big things have to happen. And then we suddenly are like, oh my gosh, okay, I need to take care of myself. I need to shift gears. Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. And I see this all the time. I actually teach this in one of my courses, but I see this all the time with my clients coming in when they're really feeling like they're disconnected from their purpose. It starts with the emotions, your body will start to tell you that you're off course by feelings of anxiety and depression and restlessness. And for so many years, I just kept shoving it under the table, brushing it under the rug. If I just don't look at it and ignore it, it'll go away. It'll go away. The call will go away. Right. And it never did. It never did. It just kept getting stronger. And I think when we then start to really ignore those emotions, I see it all the time turning into, like you just said, chronic fatigue, adrenal fatigue. For me, it was cancer. I have a lot of clients who come to me with autoimmune diseases, and it's just, our bodies are smart, and our souls, they try to get our attention. And if we don't listen, like you said, I think drastic measures come into place, especially if, we are here to make a difference in the world. And if we are here to bring our gifts into the world, and even, I think it's even stronger for people who really are here to make a big difference.
Yeah. It's really incredible how, at the point where we're recording this, it's March, it's the end of March. And so there have been so many shifts in the world recently. And I think it's really interesting as well right now to see how a lot of people are having to ask these questions, these big questions of being forced to slow down and suddenly feeling those deep emotions in ways that it's again, well, how can I numb this in a different way, or having to face it? And I think that's just a really interesting thing, because you're right. Our bodies are so smart, and unfortunately we try to numb it so much before we eventually get to the point where we have to make a choice and really lean into those big dreams and pursue them, which can be really scary, but it's also so rewarding. And I'm excited to kind of hear, as you move forward, what that looked like for you as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's so scary, but it's so important to face. And I think so many of us, you don't have to necessarily wait to hit rock bottom, but so many of us
Yes,
do.
yeah. That is
Right?
very true. And it looks a little different for everyone. So yes, yeah, you don't have to hit rock bottom. You can listen to your body now.
Yes, please listen to your body now. What's it trying to
Yes.
tell you? Yeah,
Oh,
well,
I love that.
yeah, for sure. Well, I totally hit rock bottom and, I didn't even know if I was going to live. I didn't know if I was going to die. I didn't know if I'd be able
Mm,
to see my kids grow up and get married. I didn't know if I had 1 year, 5 years, 30 years, 50 years. I mean, I had no idea. And
yeah,
the only thing I could do at that point was surrender. And,
yeah.
literally I was on my knees at the
Mm,
window just saying like, show me, just show
mm,
me. And that was all I did for a good year. Um,
mm,
but I also, in that moment, ironically enough, the same week that I was diagnosed, I was supposed to start the Beautiful You Coaching Academy, and I wasn't sure if I should start or not. Um,
mm,
but I really went within and I thought, you know what, that's actually going to be something that's going to get me through this, because I feel like that really is something that
mm.
I've wanted for so long, is to become a coach, that training is going to be a part of my healing journey. And I was so right. So, not only the first year of building my business, essentially learning how to coach and learning how to become a coach and training as a coach, and then learning how to build a business and then building my business, that first year I was also really recovering from my diagnosis and my surgery and that traumatic experience. And I was learning how to live my life from
Yeah.
a place of surrender and a place of
Mm,
alignment. And for the first time in my life, a place of no shoulds anymore, and just what does Erica
yeah.
want, need, and feel, right? So like
Hmm.
living from a place of intuition instead of should. And it was a
Yeah.
hugely different experience, as you might know as well.
Totally. Yeah. I love those questions. What do I want? What do I need? And what do I feel? Those are such good questions to be asking ourselves. And it does tap us back into our intuition so we can actually hear what it is that our story is really asking us to do and how we can show up for ourselves. That's good.
Mm-hmm. That's something that I really still do almost every day. Is, it really just guides my life. And I really talk a lot about building a soul aligned business, because I truly
Mm,
believe that when, like, we are here to bring our work into the world, but I think it'll only also be truly successful if we're building it in a soulful way. And so I'm always
yeah.
asking myself, what do I feel? What do I want? What do I need? And trying to make decisions every day from a place of that, as opposed to in the
Mm,
mind and from a place of ego.
yeah. Yeah. That's so good.
Yeah. So then essentially, the last 4 years, I've been building my business. And within a year, I had quit my not for profit job. I was on a wait list for my coaching business. And it's just, yeah, been going sort of like, it just blows my mind every year, where it just kind of has a life of its own.
Yeah, that's so incredible. And I feel like you're jumping to like the wait list so quickly. So I am so curious what during that season when you were building your business, like you said, like you were healing from such a traumatic experience with your cancer and like working to overcome that and heal yourself
Mhm.
while also learning to be a coach and starting your business, which is so much to be working on. I'm curious, how do you feel like we all, including myself, can pull from your experience as we are growing our businesses?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So it was a lot to process. And, you know, for me and my perspective, it's really a case of when you have a business or something that is so much greater than you, and it's so much greater than what your daily actions are. It's like your mission, it's your calling, it is your purpose, and it is your time to start bringing your gifts and your love and your light and I like to say, your life's work out into the world.
Mm,
It becomes a non-negotiable. Like,
mm,
it's almost, you don't necessarily need motivation. I like to say purpose trumps motivation at all times. And
mm,
So I think, the most important thing that I can say is really just treat that as a non-negotiable. And the reason why, your business and your life's work and finding your life's work and tapping into it and really allowing it to evolve so that, it can serve the people that you're meant to serve. It's so important because the world needs our medicine, right?
Yeah.
And the world needs what we're here to share. And
Mm-hmm.
on that journey, I heard something that really changed how I viewed my business. And it now is sort of the foundation for all of the work that I do with my clients as well. And it's called, there's this indigenous term called original medicine. And there are two principles or two teachings behind original medicine. And the first one is that we all come to this earth with gifts that are duplicated nowhere else. Right? So nobody else has the gifts that we have. And two, if we don't bring them out into the world, then they're lost for all time. And I just think that that's so powerful, and if you can really find a way to just know who you are and know what you really love to do and know what you're really good at and figure out a way to combine those two things to create value in the world and to have an impact, that makes, growing a business so much easier and being able to put yourself out there so much easier.
Totally. I love that term, just like thinking of your work in the world as medicine, because I feel like that just recently I had someone share that with me, and it was such an impact when you actually think of what you have to offer as medicine. It's like, oh, this isn't something that I'm trying to sell. This isn't, anything sleazy or anything. It's actually me showing up in a way that is going to provide a resource for someone that needs it. And that is such a powerful shift to also recognize we are responsible for ourselves. Like, we have to take ownership for our experience and tap back into our intuition, tap back into like our magical inner selves and learn like, what is the medicine that I have to offer? How can I show up in integrity with that medicine and reveal it to the world? And I think that just that one like shift of words, when it's like becomes your medicine and not just like your work in kind of like the Western or modern society term of like, work, it's medicine. It's just, that's such a big shift.
Such a big shift. And then when you think about it's your medicine and you have a piece of what the world needs, it becomes your responsibility.
That's so good. So good. I'm curious for people who are kind of in that really exploratory phase of like, okay, well, what is my medicine? What do you have in terms of guidance for where they're at? Because that can be a very confusing phase to kind of be establishing your voice and trying to decide, oh, should I quit my business? Do I even have the right purpose that I've decided on? What kind of guidance do you have for where they're at?
I mean, I can give you a couple of tips right now. I do obviously have a course that walks people through all of this, and like free master classes and things like that, which we can talk about at the end if you want. But just from where you're at right now, it's a bit of a process. And I guess, everybody has a unique purpose, right? So like what it might end up being, let's just say whether a coach or you're some sort of energy healer or you're a writer, there are other people out there who will have they will be working towards the same purpose as you. So if you have that calling, if you have that desire in your heart, and if that's something that's coming through to you, just because there might be a million other people out there doing it does not mean that you shouldn't start to, right? And so that I think is probably just one of the most important pieces, is so many people already know, they just don't feel like it's valid because they have all these external factors that are telling them why it's not a good idea. And so I think, just putting the blinders on and really trusting what is within you is the most important piece.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious. So when you talk about kind of your life's purpose and kind of pursuing your big dreams, so you just kind of talked about the blinders and kind of putting those up. But for people who are feeling really fearful, especially with the world and how it's shifting right now, and we're having to kind of shift how we're showing up. How do you recommend kind of leaning into that fear or processing through it? Because putting the blinders on, in some ways it can sound really simple, but then in a lot of ways when it comes to the practical, like, but how am I going to provide for myself, can get really scary. And I'm curious, just how do you, even in your own journey, I know you talked a little bit about how there is that fear there, like, I have a family to provide for, I have to, kind of tackle these things. What are your kind of thoughts around that?
Yeah. So such a good question. And this is probably the most common question that I get asked. And, it's different for everybody.
Totally.
I have people, who I talk to who they're trying to move into their business and they're earning $30,000 a year. And then I have people who I talk to when they're trying to move full-time in their business and their corporate job is earning them $300,000 a year. And they, it's the same regardless. Like, I have this lifestyle, I'm earning this income. How am I ever going to start a business? That's, how long is it going to take to get up and running? How will I ever see the money? Where do I even start? What do I have to do? So yeah, there are a whole lot of fears that start coming up. And the thing is, and this is really important to hear and to remember, when you finally recognize and you are just really aware of what your purpose is, the initial instinct for all of us is not to run towards it. It's to run the polar opposite direction, like as fast as we freaking can because of that fear. And it's, I think, recognizing and creating an awareness of like, we are all scared when we're starting something new. That's just how we're biologically designed to be. And a motto that I've really had to get comfortable with is just feel the fear and do it anyway, but also recognize fear as a tool that can really guide us and walk alongside us. And I think if we can just know that, fear can be a passenger, it can be a passenger and it can ride along with us and it can come along the journey with us, but we're never going to let it be the driver. And I think, I feel fear all the time, probably at least once a day, something will come up that scares me when I'm doing something new, especially in my business. But it's just a case of taking tiny actions and really going within and, asking yourself, is this the right action? And is this the right step for me to take today? And just know that when you're transitioning out of a job and into a business, it doesn't have to happen all at once. People, we all freak out about, how, like we think really big picture, how will this ever happen? And we want it to be done and dusted right now. But if you're, let's just say, for example, you're working with a coach to help you build your business, they're going to have a transition. They're going to help, some certain coaches will help you transition through that period of time so that it's not like you're just quitting your job and you have zero income coming in, right? So you can be really strategic when you're building your business and get your income up to a place where you need it to be. Keep it consistent for about 6 months, put some savings away so that you can live off of that while you make that transition. So it's very strategic. And sometimes it takes my clients 6 months. Sometimes it's 1 year. I've had clients where it's taken them about 2.5 years to feel like they're comfortable leaving their full-time job to be in their business full-time. So it's not a race, and you actually can make the transition when you feel like safe and ready.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like something that is also a misconception is that it can be okay to have a part-time job. Like if you're in that middle in between, or like a contract job or whatever it may be, to help kind of bridge the gap, because it does take time. And everyone's story is different. Like everyone's starting from a different place. And so I feel like a lot of times we think, or at least, from like a starting point, it's like, oh, like all these people have this stuff together, but we don't actually know the behind the scenes. And they may have a part-time job, but they're still pursuing their business, which is amazing. And that's actually, I think it's really inspirational to hear kind of where people are actually at as well. But it's okay. Like wherever you're at is okay. And I think that's important to like you said, lean into the fear and be okay with where you're at with your story, because there's no wrong way to do it. You can be strategic and support yourself, and, you can do both at the same time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's exactly how I did it as well. And so many of my clients do the same. And it's just a really beautiful, graceful transition when you do it that way. So I think that is definitely people's greatest fear when starting out. But when you actually break it down, it doesn't have to be a scary process.
Totally. Yeah. I love that you use the word graceful. I feel like for me personally, I feel like that word has been coming up so much lately as just like a word we need to be bringing into our daily lives where we can have grace for our human experience, just kind of wherever we're coming at it from, whether you're pursuing big dreams or pursuing a business or pursuing a career in corporate, like if that really is your thing, whatever it may be, just having grace for your human experience. It's so easy to take on the expectations, the shoulds, right? And it's so easy to internalize those as a truth. And when we can put those down and have grace for where we're at and just enter into every situation with like, again, like those words, like, what am I feeling? What do I need? What do I want? How can I be grace filled for myself? Yeah. I don't know why that word has just been really resonant with me. So I just wanted to pull that out.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah, I love that so much. I think that's, especially right now with what everyone's kind of going through, I think that's really relevant.
So you've talked a little bit about how motherhood has impacted your journey. And I would love if you could take a few minutes and just talk to some of the moms that are out there seeking to start businesses, because that's something that I actually can't bring to the table yet because I don't have any kids. I would love if you could share kind of a little bit more in detail, like what has that process been in showing up for your kids while starting a business? Because I've talked to a couple other people that are moms on the podcast, but I think it's so important to be able to see and have it mirrored back that it's possible and that it's it can happen. And you're such a successful coach. And like I said, you just won the International Coach of the Year from BICA. And I love that. And I'd love if you could just speak to that a little bit, just being a mom and running your own business.
Yes. So it is no joke. I'm not going to lie. I actually have 2 kids at home right now because school's canceled for the next 6 weeks. So it's definitely interesting. I think when I built my business, I was working full time. And like I said, I was recovering from my cancer diagnosis and my youngest was still breastfeeding. And then I also had a toddler. And so, people will come to me all the time and they'll say, oh, I'm working full time. I don't have the time. And to me, it's just an excuse, because if you really want something or you feel like something is really important to you, or it's like I said before, it's your medicine and it's your mission and it's your responsibility, you actually find the time, And so there were a couple of months where the only time that I really had to work on my business was on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 8:30 to 10:30 at night. And I am so not a night person, but I was already waking up at 5 o'clock to do my workouts and meditation and then get everyone off to school and daycare and all the things. So it was literally the only time that I had. And I just it was a non-negotiable 8:30 to 10:30, Tuesday, Thursdays. After the kids went to bed, that was just my time to build my business. And then once I started having clients, I knew I had to put them someplace. So then I worked on Sundays as well, between 8 and 1 o'clock on Sundays. And that was when I saw my clients. And, people would say, oh, but you're losing time with your kids. And I didn't really lose that much time, in all honesty. I probably lose more time now because I'm traveling and speaking and doing all the things. But in the beginning, it wasn't, it was that Sunday morning. But what I also say to that is I really feel like our kids choose us as parents based on the evolution that their soul needs. I actually really believe that. And I think that if we're not out there being our full human selves and expressing our work and bringing our medicine to the world, we're not going to help them evolve in the way that they want or need to evolve. And so I think that it's really important for them to see us doing work that we really love and not viewing work as something that they have to do every day. It's something that they get to do. And since I've started my own business, I just have seen a lot of shifts in them around their, I don't know, it's so good, I think, for them to see us in full expression of who we are and in full expression of our purpose.
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like that almost comes down to knowing what our values are and mirroring that back to the world. And whether that's, our audiences or our kids or our family, just knowing, okay, this is what is valuable to me. And I am going to mirror that back to those that I love. And in the people that our families, can respond to that. And it actually helps develop growth because it's like, oh, you're standing in integrity to you. Yes. And that's possible for me too.
Yes.
And I think that that's like, it's so key for just like success. I don't know, quote unquote success, but like actual success.
Totally.
Because then we actually feel like we're able to live fully and freely and openly, loving what we do. And yeah, it provides a window for people to see through. Just be like, oh, wow, that is possible. Oh, I can do that. I can follow my dreams. My mom is doing it. Like, that is so something I want to do, or like, I want to do this other thing. And I know that I can because I've seen that it's possible to run my own business. So I love that so much.
Exactly. It's exactly dead point on. And I think back to, yes, I travel a lot now and there are weeks that I'm gone and whatnot, but I see like I'm so much happier as a human being. And I know, how much of a different mom am I now? Whereas the mom before, who is miserable and having wine all night and losing patience and not sleeping, and I was grumpy and irritated and miserable, like that is not the kind of mom that I wanted to be. And it wasn't a case of my parenting style. It was a case of I didn't know who the hell I was. And I did know actually at that point, but I wasn't living it. And that created such a nightmare in my mind. And now, yes, I might spend more time away from my kids. Not really, in all honesty, but I spend bigger chunks of time away, I guess I should say. But they see this and they see how happy I am, and they see how like the cool things that I get to do, and I get to travel the world and I get to go to these cool places, and they see that. And you're right. It's not going to be something that they necessarily dream of doing because it's going to be a norm for them. Like it's just a normal thing that humans do. Yeah. So I just feel really excited about that.
Totally. So when we live in full integrity to ourselves, it allows us to be more fully present in the moment. And it sounds like now, like you were saying, you're so much more happy now, and you're so much more like fully expressing yourself now, which allows you to also be fully present in every moment versus before when you were, maybe you had slices of time with your kids that were a little bit more than what you have now, but that time was less present because again, there's probably mindset battles that you're fighting along with just feeling overwhelmed with work. And when we evaluate, the different people that we can actually show up in the world as, it feels so much more refreshing to think of a person who's living in full integrity and fully themselves and being able to be fully present in the moment. And like, I think we all really desire that as well with how fast paced the world often is. Actually being able to ground in and be present with our family is like a huge and refreshing thing. So I love that.
Absolutely. Yeah. It makes all the difference in the world. And like you said, you just really enjoy the time more. And I'm not resentful. Yeah. I felt resentful. Like I was almost making it about them. Like, oh, now that you're here, I can't do all these things. And oh, now that you're here, I'm not traveling. And I'm like, where did I even go? And it was actually me just choosing to live my life that way. We do have a choice. And so just really, feeling so much happier when I am with them because I know that I can make the most of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love it. So I'm curious, I know we've kind of shared some tips throughout the conversation, but were there any other tips that you wanted to share or encouragement as well for people who are listening right now?
So I guess I just want to, people are always like, well, what is my purpose and how do I know, if I'm on the right track? Just to kind of give you a little bit of some practical questions that you can ask yourself. So our life purpose is always a combination of a couple of things. It's always a combination of one, what we're naturally just really good at. What are we gifted at? What do we do that's just super easy? And it comes so easy for us that we don't probably think that it is a gift.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it takes maybe asking like someone who's really close to you what they think that your gifts are, because a lot of times we just can't see them ourselves. And then the second piece is, what do you really love? Our purpose is always, always, always so aligned with what we really love. And the third piece is, how can I combine those two to create value in the world or to give back an impact in some way, shape, or form?
Yeah, those are such beautiful tips. I love the last one as well, because I think it is very interesting how when we really fully show up for ourselves, it actually shows us how we get to show up for the world. Like that's the whole conversation, right? Like, is it showing up for yourself so you can show up in the world? And that last tip specifically is like, how can you make an impact? But it also starts with like, what do you love? What are you good at? So that's beautiful. I love those tips.
So true. Yeah. I hadn't thought of it like that. That's awesome.
I feel like I'm just thinking about these things so much right now because I feel like the world is mirroring a lot of things back to us. And I'm like, oh my gosh, turn inward first. And then you can go out into the world and heal.
Yes.
So that's, my mind is just on that like loop right now.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Yeah. It's so important. The first thing that I actually have my clients do when they come through the program to really get clear on what their purpose is actually do their own healing work. It has to start there.
Yeah,
it always starts there. And the reason why is because if you try and step into, or even if you're trying to make a decision on what to do, right? Like what business to start, or what is my life's work, or what is my soul's work, it's going to look very different and it's going to be very skewed if you haven't done the inner work, because you're going to be coming from such a different place. And so it is so important and crucial to do a lot of your own healing. One, so you can actually hear clear answers, but two, you're then able and strong enough to carry through and actually make it happen. So you're so right. And I think, I spend a lot of time with people actually doing a lot of that work because it just needs to be done first before we can actually go out there and help the world in the way that we're meant to.
Totally. And it can feel a little bit backwards, but when you think about it, it's really just setting a foundation. It can feel backwards to like serve yourself, take self-care, all of those different things, heal yourself. But setting that good foundation, like you were just saying, is like, it's where you got to start.
Yep, absolutely.
So good. So a few wrap-up questions as we kind of close out is, what is one way that you slow down amidst our busy world?
Well, this actually sounds really super ironic, but actually stop the busyness.
Yeah.
And what I mean when I say that is, how often do we actually give ourselves permission to just sit in stillness and do literally nothing?
Yeah.
Like do nothing. I am the worst at this as well. And I have to intentionally make myself do this, but it is so important. And I think if you think about how engaged we always are, we're engaged constantly, right? So the time that we wake up, most of the time people are right on their phones, they're checking their phones, or they're turning the news on, or they're turning the radio on, or they're driving to the gym and the radio's on, or they're listening to, no offense, but a podcast, right? Or like a YouTube channel, or we're cooking and we've got the TV on in the background, or our kids are doing this, and we are always engaged. Like always. There is actually not when do you ever just be? And so I think it's so important to take at least 10 minutes every single day and just allow yourself to do something in 10 minutes of quiet, right? So whether it's 10 minutes sitting with a cup of tea by the fireplace, or 10 minutes sitting by a window, or 10 minutes sitting outside and watching the sunset, or 10 minutes, turning 10 minutes, like sitting underneath the tree even, and just listening to the wind blow, giving yourself that space to just pause and breathe and be is so important, because you can then start to hear those whispers of your soul, and you can start to hear what's meant to come through.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. I feel like that's always when I find I actually have the best business inspiration as well. So like it's great when you're discovering your purpose, and it's also great as you're making business decisions, because you can quiet things enough to hear what's supposed to happen next. And that's so beautiful.
Yeah, we can't hear our guidance, our inner guidance, or, any messages from ourself or our higher self or the divine or source or whatever it is you want to call it, if we're constantly engaged and we're not giving time to be still.
Yeah, I love that. And then who are a couple of your current role models or kind of like mindset expanders?
Good question. So I'm obsessed right now with Raw Goddess. I don't know if you know who she is.
No, but I'm excited to dive into. Sorry, you're going to spell it.
I was, because it's like, what? Oh, yes, it's RHA and then Goddess. She's just a real sort of spiritual teacher at the moment, which I really love. And I've also been really diving into the work of Joe Dispenza, and just really dealing with like the workings of the mind and the brain, and really sort of going down that path right now as well. And of course, I just love Louise Hay's work. And I think that's so foundational for really finding your purpose and being able to figure out why you're here is the work of Louise Hay. And she really walks you through a lot of what needs to be healed for you to be able to do your work and give your medicine out to the world.
That's awesome. I love it. I always love hearing who people are just kind of inspired by and like pull inspiration from, because I think it's always, first of all, it's awesome to find new people to follow and to be inspired by. And I don't know, there's just something about finding new people to mirror what the next step is for you. I just love that.
Absolutely agree. Yep.
So then how can we find and support you online? You have like so much going on. So I'm really excited to hear all of the stuff that you have going on as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll make it super quick, but I do have, I think probably the best place is Instagram, which I'm guessing you'll put in a, like, I don't know.
Yes. Yep. The show notes. So that'll be on my blog. Yep.
Instagram. And from there, you can find my free masterclass, which is how to discover your life's purpose. And I basically walk you through, it's a free course or free masterclass. And I basically walk you through the process that I take my clients through. And there's also a course that's a 10-week course called Awaken Your Purpose. And that really helps you do the work and get clear on what your life purpose is and how that actually looks as a business or a career as well. And then if you're building your business and you're looking for support to really get your work out there and get your business up and running, there's a couple of different programs just based on where you're at. But again, you can just find that on Instagram and go to Explore Business Coaching with Erica.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. I always love seeing the things that you're coming out with on Instagram. And I took part in one of your recent, I think it was a challenge that I was part of on Facebook. And that was just so incredible. And I can't say enough about the work that you put out into the world. So
thank you. That means a lot to me, Megan. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. And everyone definitely hop onto the blog, which is in my Instagram links, and just check out everything that Erica is putting out into the world. And yeah, sign up for her masterclass and all the things, because you will find lots of nuggets to kind of pull away from and implement as you're diving into your big dreams. So thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Reclamation Podcast. I hope it served you on your own reclamation journey, and know that I'm rooting for you all the way. If you want to learn more about the show guests, head to the website, thereclamationpodcast.com. And if you found value in the show, 5 stars is always appreciated. Good things are coming for you. Bye for now.